Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. A little bit of a different format here tonight with some new designs, summer of 2025, and I'll show you what's in these new sets. There are three new nature sets 46, 47, and 48, and if you're not familiar with the Stampscapes line, they come in both untrimmed 100% rubber sheets or in the pre-trimmed cling foam versions. Okay, now from the time of this video here, these designs or sets should be ready in about a week and a half, I would say, from now. I just uploaded them to the plates to the engravers just yesterday, and they shipped them out from the Midwest to the West Coast. Anyway, hello Candy and Sheila, how are you? Okay, so let's just get into it right here. Okay, so what I've done is I've printed out these roughly 6 by 9 inch plates here. They all have about 1/4 of an inch around it, which you need to do when you're doing engravings and stamp production. For some reason in the vulcanizing process, they need this little gutter line around it, which is on the plates, but it doesn't show on this on these printouts here. But these are the true sizes of the stamps that will be in these sets, and you can see where I've kind of crammed as many designs into these sets as possible. But you don't want them so close that people are going to have, just an impossible time cutting them out, trimming them out of here. And the same thing goes for when they do pre-trimmed cling foam sets too. They have to have room to work around them on the scroll saw, which is basically looks like a jigsaw. But they're cutting out the rubber and the cling foam, the gray cling foam at the same time. So you have to leave a little bit of space, but we want it as close as possible to really maximize the area to fill out as many designs as possible. So on something like this, I had enough room in a couple of these spots, so I made like this little sandpiper design in one extra size, but I had them facing the opposite way. But anyways, sea life. I don't have really a lot of sea life imagery, so I thought it was time. And years ago, there was this company called Coronado Island Designs, and they had some like an orca pod that was really cool, and people would do a lot of scenic stamping with it. I wouldn't say a lot, but when anyone did it, it was really dramatic. And I saw that stamp used in some different settings. The ones that stand out to me for some reason are the ones that were kind of a little more of like an Arctic setting. But these orcas, I mean, you can have them in all kinds of different settings. And environments, because of their migration pattern and whatnot. But while we're doing it, I did them in this design, and this design is a little bit different from one another, but I did them in 2 different sizes. So you can do one in the foreground, and you can do the smaller one in the background. And I don't know. I guess you could if you're going crazy with orcas or something like that, and you were doing a large enough piece, but I did the like the orca and calf type of thing here, as well as the underwater. Now I don't have a lot of underwater things, but while I was doing orcas, I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. But you can use some different types of Stampscapes imagery for underwater scenes, like the one that I always use all the time. I use rocks, but I always use the curvy leaves. I can't even remember the name of it. Curvy leaves, because it looks like giant kelp if you use it underwater. And I see something like this being used with my kind of light beam kind of things that I like to do a lot. Going down under the water. You can do some things over water. You can do a water line a la the Wyland, or I forgot what that other guy's name was that did it like above water, underwater scenes a lot. But lakeside cove type of stuff up here, whatever you want to do. And you can do that underwater type of thing, but I really see this as being really dramatic with some light beams coming down with this one. Okay, glad you're liking candy. Hello, Sherry, how are you? Okay, so some other things. I really love otters. I think they're really super cute, and I thought it was time for something like this, having these, just in some kind of body of water. It'd probably be fairly close up with them. And, again, something like Lakeside Cove or whatever you want to do, some sort of, lakeside type of thing. And you can have these little critters right here kind of swimming around in the foreground. So, a little bit of a larger kind of scale type of thing. I don't have like a lot of animals that are really close to you. So that's where kind of these types of things come into play. I guess you can use it with like the Seaside Cove or something like that. For some reason, a lot of people are buying the Seaside Cove lately. I don't know if someone used it or whatever, but the sandpipers, you can really bring in something really close up to us in terms of, I don't know, kind of the visual focal points. Usually I have things in the distance that you can put in it kind of any kind of environment. They're largely like silhouettes, but this is where this type of thing kind of, I don't know, I don't know if it departs from that, but it expands on that type of kind of, I don't know, visual information. Okay, so you got these sandpipers here used in the sand. You can use all these in conjunction with one another. I see this one in the foreground. And in the kind of the deeper foreground, you can have the other ones and, the other one going the other way. So you can have these birds like this, like right around the shoreline. And I think that would be really cool. And then you have the baby sea turtles here, kind of a closer up type of view of them. I have the sea turtles separate that are a little bit more silhouette based. From, I don't know, the release of a couple years ago, but just some little bit of closer up type of thing. Shows a little bit more personality in them. I'll show you the full size rendered versions of these things so you can see what these things look like a little bit better on this video here. But anyway, yeah, the sea turtle here. I probably wouldn't put these with the baby sea turtles, but if you want kind of, you can do it like a little time thing, like, a sequence thing where there's a shoreline or something like that, and you see the sea, sea turtle coming up or whatever like that. And the next one is like, I don't know, whatever, baby sea turtles going out to sea or something like that. I think that would be kind of fun. Anyway, I'm looking forward to using these things like this. Now, I never would have done these orcapods before, but that Coronado Island stamps, they've been gone for, I don't know how long they've been gone, for 15 years or something like that. So I usually don't like to do any types of designs that I've seen before that are really specific from any other company. It's like, you just don't copy other people's designs or something like that. But I don't know. I wanted these pods here, and I've always wanted, to add, more drama into the scenes, and certainly this orca pod kind of provides something like that. Certainly, large mammals jumping out of the water, that type of thing, and these ones are going to be a little bit more closer up than, say, something like my little tiny, like, I don't know, whatever, quarter-inch dolphin from the last release that I really like using too, but a lot more drama with these large mammal types of images. Okay, so let me show you what these kind of look like. I've been working a lot larger these days because the larger you kind of work on imagery, you can get a lot more detail into it, okay, when it's reduced. So I've worked really large this time. I used to avoid that because I didn't like to reduce anything more than, I would say about reduced down to 67%, I think it was, of the original size. But I think I was kind of locked into that notion back when they used to do more camera work. These days, a lot of it's digital, so I think it skips if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, I think it skips the negative process where they do a negative film and then they use that on this magnesium plate from which they make the engravings from. I think it probably skips that negative process, so a lot more details can be retained with less generations. Not to get too technical here, but they're able to keep that detail. So here's my little, this is this little guy right here, this otter with a clam. I used to see these otters at this place called Point Lobos, which is I think it's a little bit south of Carmel, California. It was like the first time I've seen otters out in the wild. It was really interesting. Just swimming around in every little cove there. You can see, oh, there's a little otter down there. But this guy, I think it is, if I didn't change things around, so this one's going to be 1.5 inches across right here, okay, by about 1 inch right here high. So cute little guy. So these are the types of things I'm going to be looking for. And it shouldn't be any problem when I look at this size right here. But, when you're doing designs, it's like, okay, these little whiskers are important. And that negative space right in there. So if I'm reducing it down to 1.25 from this really large original, are those still going to read? You don't want the rubber, and when you print this out, for all of that to fill in. So you want all these little lines and negative space to read in the impressions, of course. So that's the type of thing that, I'm really kind of tinkering around with and tweaking in regards to, this vastly reduced size right here. Hello, Peg. How are you? Otters galore. Fishing and tied to the little otter came down and stood up to watch us. Aren't otters fun? I really love watching like little things on otters, freshwater otters too. I watch YouTube videos of them. Hello, Janet. And hello, Linda. All right, here's another one right here. Okay, so little things like, the hair in here, and getting that patterning in there is going to be important. I'm going to lose some of the information on that one when it gets that small, like that little line up there. I thought about thickening that up right there, but it wouldn't have kind of the same kind of delicacy of that fur if I put a heavy outline around it up there. So I figured, there's enough of this defining outline right on the head and down there. The head, I had to put that pretty thick line up there, just so it's visible like that. But I thought, I could lose some of that around the edge like that, and it'll have a little bit more finesse. Finesse is the thing that I'm looking for here. So anyway, looking forward to that one. Now, these ones right here too, if I kind of included the shadow and reflection down here, it might have been better. But if I do that on all these, like this reflection would go down, like down to here. We're talking about probably 3 less designs that I could put on this plate right here. So after we stamp these out, put a little shadow down here instead. You get more imagery for your buck, but when you stamp them in the water, put a little, shading down here, take your black pen or whatever, your Copic marker or something like that, and add a little shadow down here just to anchor the imagery down. Now, I put the orca shadows in here because it looked weird without any kind of shadows on these ones. I didn't do it for this one again, too, so. Or if you have a mirror impression, stamp, you can do that, too. You can just, add that shadow down there. But these ones I needed to put that shadow in there because it looked kind of weird without it. So these guys right here, this little crawling tortoise and stuff like that. The baby sea turtles, no shadows on them, okay? So those are all the types of things that you have to kind of consider when you're working on these designs like that and kind of doing the plates for them. It's like, hey, are people going to want like three more designs, completely new designs, and you just got to add in a little bit of shading to it, or do you add the shadows in inherently into the designs like that? So, and sometimes when you add in the designs too, like if I have a sun over here, I have the shadow going out this way, and if I have the sun or moon or whatever over here, then I put the shadow more on this side. So, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit more flexible in terms of your lighting when when it's sans shadow. Okay, so here's this guy right here. And that's the size of it right there. So yeah, 2 inches roughly by 2 by 1 roughly. That little otter and pup like that. Okay. When I'm looking at these things, I'm kind of imagining using them in a scene. I can see like I don't know, like a lighthouse, the lighthouse stamp over here or something like this, and a little cove coming around like this, or like a little point, and then you can put some rocks down here, and that little otter out there. I haven't had these little really strong kind of visual landing points in the near shoreline waters before, so it's going to be real different in terms of kind of what I don't know what you put the visual focal point as in scenes. Your eye tends to go like to animals a lot or people, even if it's like an 11 by 17 scene or something like that. But now we have other things to use in there, which, like I said, I haven't done a lot of, unless it was like a Halloween thing with the the creature of the Black Lagoon coming out of the water. Okay, so here's my little sandpiper right here. Had to get all these things down right. So if I was working on it at this size right here, impossible. You know what I mean? I would have to work with like a single hair, like brush or something like that. Paintbrush to get all this type of thing. So you work on it really huge, and I can get all that little stippling in on there, like that, and just keeping the line weight. And I thought it can handle going down even to a 0.75 inch width like that from this type of size right here. So little scampering, little sandpipers on the shoreline should be pretty fun. I can see these ones being used with the sandpipers with, there's this kind of message in a bottle type of image from the last release. I haven't used it too many. I don't know. Have I used it more than once or twice or something like that? But I can see like a little bottle, that message in the bottle being put up there. And then these little sandpipers are kind of, roughly in that scale of that bottle. But, that with like the shoreline or something like that would be really fun. These little sandpipers like this with like Deanna's pre-printed papers would be pretty cool, I think. I gotta talk to Deanna. Oh, okay, so talking about this, you can see my, this was gonna be originally a sandpiper and chick right here. I reduced this one. I'd have to tweak this image right here a lot, because when I reduced it down, you can see how small it is in comparison to this. That would be proportionate. This was way too delicate, because these little sandpiper chicks are like white, you know what I mean? So these adult ones have a little bit more of this darker patterning on top, which can hold the design together a little bit more when it's, reduced like this. If this was like a all white bird, you know what I mean? It's not going to show up at all. So this one right here just reduced so small, it just didn't hold up. So I'd have to change this line weight around here a lot more. But then it would make the little chick a little bit too heavy. So I don't know. It might not ever be released, so this is the only time you'll ever see it. Sea turtle right here. I really liked all this patterning in here and texturing, so we did it both ways, like this larger one and smaller one, but I flipped it going the other way. You could have like two of them going on the beach at the same time. All right, so here's the baby sea turtles like this. it's the same turtle but reduced, okay? And I thought about doing one, but I thought that's going to be like, I don't want people to have to like take like a really tiny stamp and just stamp it like so many times and re-ink. So I'd put like the three of them like that. So we have this one right here, like that, really small, and this one right here. But not so small that they're like little black silhouettes, like the other ones. So, hello, Tracy. Hello, Bonnie. So let's see a lot of my little notations right here. Flip. So it's like 1.75 across, like this. And flipped over, this one's 1.25 by 0.5. So this is some pretty small designs here. All right, there's just the original size for this one right here. These are like the little kind of design kind of considerations with this one. It was like, okay, do I put that little stippling in here or not, And this one right here I was debating, but without it, it just looked too open. It didn't have any visual weight to it, so we had to add in all these little kind of this shading right here and down here. And you can see that area right there where it's white. It kind of defines that little ridge right there. What is that thing? It's like the spinal cord, right, going down into the tail, or I don't know, whatever you call it, tailbone or something like that. But we did that. And I thought about that in the eye, but the eyes really need to be nice and clear, so no kind of shading in this area down here, even though it's kind of lower. So whatever, artistic license there when it comes to lighting right there. So 3 inches across like that, which is pretty big design, but the actual whales, when you're talking about like that, it's only like 1.5 inches, so not very big. So all of these designs too, I'm doing them in the context of them being utilized in a quarter page scene. But of course they can be used in larger ones, but you always want to kind of design things size-wise so that, in the most commonly used card format, quarter page, 4.25 by 5.5, they can be utilized like that. So that's my thoughts with, as far as that goes. Okay, here's my pods right here. I can't wait to use these in all kinds of different settings. I see like, I don't know, you can use these in any type of setting, but dramatic kind of skies or something like that. These dark forms like this are going to show up nicely against, both, something high noon, daylight, or something like that, as well as something really dark. You can do these on, that dark, like blue cardstock or something like that, where you kind of add in, white pigment ink or something like that to a sky. So even in the deepest of night type of settings or something like this, these should show up really nicely. So like on something like, let's see, I grabbed some different things too. So also, one of the things about these designs in here too, I can use them in things like horizon or reflection cards. So see, when we have something like this, okay, maybe not in this scene right here. I don't know if I'd do orca pods, but you could. Like if I had like a moon up here or something like this, see, I can put other types of things down here. Now this one happens to be a nighttime type of scene, of course, with this blue holographic paper, which by the way, that thing's back on Amazon. Thank heavens, this pillory type of holographic. But see, I can put these other types of images down this other location. Now this one's a reflection card, so I could stamp out things like this on the silver, but this could be just paper down here as well, and we can put these other types of creatures. All of them can go down in this lower section right here, like they're in the water or coming out of the water or something like that. Again, at the Seaside Cove here, it can be on a flat card too, you know, Seaside Cove like this, and you have that turtle coming out of the water. But if you do it in a kind of horizon reflection card format, and, you know, having that turtle kind of crawling out of the water would be really cool. I would make it more beachy. I wouldn't have this pine type of, you know, forest in here for that. But those are the other types of things that I had in mind. Hello, Shirley. Good to see you. Orkin Baby, I really love the splashing thing like this, so I can't wait to use this right here. You stamp it out on a card or whatever, and I'm gonna take like the Dr. Martens or something like that, whatever type of setting, and then splash, you know, those, you know, that splatter painted white paint down in this area right here, and it should be nice and provide a nice kind of movement into the setting. Anyway, that is nature set number 48, Sea Life. So when I start doing this types of things and talking about it, it's like other things kind of come to mind as far as other types of imagery go. It's a never-ending cycle or something like that, you know. Okay, so if you watched, you know, any of these videos and seen a lot of my pieces from the last release, you'll know I really enjoyed adding in these types of lighting elements into a scene. You know, when I look at some of these cards that I've done, it's hard for me to imagine them not having, you know, some sort of lighting in the water. Okay, now these ones, I really love doing these reflection cards and these types of additions to them like this. But like I said, I've done some without, you know, the this folded format like this. But adding all these little things in here like that, it added so much more, I thought, into the scene, because it's suddenly some excuse to add lighting in other areas other than the sky and on reflected objects, you know, moon reflecting off rocks or something like that. So here's a Halloween's, and this is on one of Deanna's background papers right here. But see, these little lanterns right here are glow in the dark. So, this one's on glow in the dark vinyl too right here, as well as this right here. But this little kind of pathway of lights like this, even if you don't have it glow in the dark, you know, you can make, you know, you can stamp these types of things out on a different piece of paper and just put it into the scene, and it looks illuminated, right? So, you know, the benefit of the vinyl is you can turn off the lights and it'll still show up like that. But these little kind of things like that, ornament is something that I thought, oh, you know, I got to have more of that for myself. So in the past, before those like lanterns and things like that, so I'd be putting in things like fireflies into scenes just for an excuse to put lighting into kind of, you know, otherwise maybe boring areas, you know, where we have a lot of shadow and things. We have it coming out of structures or something like that too. Or then there's lighthouse. But I wanted more kind of decorative types of lights. So things around pathways, or you can use them in anything really. So I have these like floating candles right here, more decorative types of lights. So I have those hanging lanterns in the last series too, but I can use these more Asian looking ones. You can use them in really anything, but the Mystic series of designs would be really fun. Or if you've seen like garden design, sometimes you see like chrome orbs or something like that in garden, landscape gardens, you know, and all that type of ornament. It really adds really these strong focal points, kind of whimsical elements to it. But of course, I like doing things a lot of times from twilight to, you know, darker types of settings. So we have all these like this. It could be like in little ponds, you know, you can have these lotuses like this. It can just be a lotus flower. But I'm going to do these types of things in different colors. Hello, Julia and Cindy. Good to see you. But these ones right here, I want to have these ones hanging up. These are the little floating ones too. I see them in like lakeside, like types of settings. And these things right here are these little floral orbs. I'm going to put like different colors in here. And the thing is, here's the thing about this too. All these different lights like this is like a little hanging pendant, but I'm going to have that hanging out of like things like trees. You can do any of these things in whatever color is going to complement your color scheme. So I really see that as being like a big, big perk. You know, if there's say something like this, having this down here like that, it sets up. Now I could have done it in red or something like that. So if you're stamping these things directly onto there, you know, it's going to be the color out of the color scheme. But these types of things like this, and you don't have to you can just cut out this little ball right here, but I'm going to do these little glowing ball things and flowers and all kinds of different colors for my pieces. That's the way I envision it, at least. And the lanterns too, you know, more hanging ornamentation like that, or these little orbs like this. So for me, the thing that I'm thinking about too is, you know, if I'm doing this in kind of a moonlight setting, you know, where I have this glowing orb up here, you know, or a full moon or something like this, these little orbs like this are a size complement. And even the little glowing area within here, it's round. So what you're doing is you're doing this thing that designers do, and that's the repetition of form, okay? But you're doing it in different sizes. So it creates kind of a little bit of a patterning that you can create. So you can do it in different colors too. You can make that relationship in terms of the same color as you're doing the moon. What's that moon coming up in a few days? Was it a strawberry moon or something like that? I don't know. I saw it somewhere, but you know, you can do those little things to mimic that whatever shape, you know, you have going on in the sky. It could be a sun too, like a, you know, a sunset type of scene or something like that, where it's glowing kind of orangish red, and then you can have these other types of forms within the landscape as well. And you can do it. It doesn't have to be like a manicured garden or something like that. You can put it out in a forest or something like that with fairies or something like that. But these things look like little fairy lights or something like that too. So I'm talking about like a lot of kind of whimsical types of environments like that. So for me, it just illuminates the forest floor too, in a way that I don't know, just haven't really been able to do before. Okay, so here's the sizes right here, and here's what's going on with some of these designs right here. So this one right here, it's like this little orb right in here, and we have this different patterning on here. You can see where that orb is kind of going through here, and you can see it through this leaf right here. I saw this design. I forgot what it was. It might have been I don't know if it was a garden ornament or it was a pool thing. Like a floating pool one, but I think this thing I saw, it might have been on like brass or something like that. So I can take this. It's going to be small, but I can stamp this too on things like gold papers or things like that. So you can put these golden elements within, you know, the forest floor floating on water. But you can see how small they are right here. So here's one right here, and here's another one. So 1.5 and 1 inch, you know, which I thought would be a good size for that. If I went any smaller than that, I think all this little type of detailing would have broken apart. So I couldn't go that like to a 0.5 or something like that. You know, deep distance types of things. There's my little lotus right here. Okay. 2 different sizes. 3 different sizes. I added that like smallest one, I think, right there, because I thought, okay, this one's like doesn't have any stippling on there. So personally, I'm going to stamp some of these things out on the the glow-in-the-dark vinyls too, like stuff like this. And then I'm going to cut them out and use them in my scenes. I love that glow-in-the-dark property of them. These ones right here, I had to go really large to get that thing there. So you can see that little kind of glowing area in there. Okay, so these ones are like illuminated things. So these things are right in here so that we didn't have to kind of create that, because it's not going to be just a shadow down here, but it's going to have this illumination showing up right in that area. So I had to do this little surrounding area like this of darkness. So when you stamp these things out, you can kind of darken in the areas around them a little bit. Or if it's already dark and you just kind of put these things over the top of it, you can kind of reclaim the lightness in here with like a white paint pen or a yellow one or something like that, and then put that same type of yellow down in here for that reflection like that. Anyway, that's the concept of it. All right, so another path like this. I have a lot of like gravel paths and dirt roads and things like that, wooden pathways, but I wanted to do a little bit more of like a, I don't know, like a landscaped type of thing for some of these new designs as an option. All right, orb like that. And you can do this in different colors. I'm going to stamp these out, I think, on different colors of paper, and then add a little bit of white into it where it makes it look like it's kind of like glowing a little bit more. Okay. And here's these floral kind of orbs. The power of the orb. Like that. And a lot of texturing in them. This one's the one that I kept the largest because of all that little texturing in there that hopefully it can retain when it stamps out. Okay. Pendants like that. I see these little pendants hanging from trees, so I don't know, you can put them around like that girl on the swing or something like that. And I think that would be a pretty magical type of thing, to have a little girl on a swing and these little kind of pendant lamps hanging down or something like that. These little pendant ones like this, too, you can have hanging down from a tree or something like that. You just draw the line up from it like that. These could be like this, too, like a little bowl, like these little glowing things, like on steps or something like that, or just throughout the landscape as well. But if you have little things like this, you can kind of create this little illumination down in your floor, whatever surface areas or whatever's underneath it, just right below these types of things too. So it kind of creates, basically, the bottom line is it creates a lot of different lighting possibilities. And decorative too at the same time. All right, so you can see this one right here. I kind of fool around with a lot. It's like, I want to do it at this size. No, scratch it out. Let's see it at this size. No, scratch it out. Because once you reduce it down, you can kind of see and get a kind of a better idea. So I've kind of come to like these really, quite smaller ones like this. They can't be so small too, because, the whole thing is not illuminated. There's just this one little area right in here like that. So that's why I thought, okay, I thought I'm going to have to go a little bit bigger. And then I went a little bit smaller. It was like, okay, that's still a little bit too big. Because it was also taking up too much space on here. So I wanted to get a lot of different sizes of these things so we can put them in foreground and background too. Like closer lanterns and smaller lanterns as well. Which, again, is kind of like this one right here. Okay. But these ones right here, I thought, again, would go with those mystic images really well. And I also see the Moonlight Dreamers, dancing figures and reclining figures used with a lot of these types of images too. So we have to give those kind of an excuse for little figures that we stamp in our scenes to be wanting to be walking through there. Or us as a viewer, you want to kind of invite people in, and people tend to follow lighting, right? It's like a lot of places like botanical gardens these days over this last, I don't know, 15, 20 years or something like that, or zoos, you know what I mean? They have like, it's like, or, like around Christmas time or something like that, they have these extra kind of events or something like that where they do come see the local botanical garden at night or something like that. Or, we've done it up with Christmas lights or something like that. And people want to go out and, into those environments like that. So a little bit of an extra excuse for people to want to enter our scenes like that. I don't know about you. I follow the light. I mean, like poltergeist, don't go into the light. Okay, so that being said, these ones are kind of the ground cover elements like this. By the way, when I'm doing these types of things, if I'm going crazy with it, it's like, okay, I want to do these little lighting features, and probably that's going to be my, whatever contribution to the environmental lighting world. So I try to do it all at one time when I'm kind of on that kind of whatever, in that type of focus right there. So those are the ground ones like that. These ones are a little bit more of the taller ones, okay? So we have these lamp posts like that. I wanted to do a couple different types too. We have this like I had to put them sideways right here to fit on the piece, but I did this on 3 different sizes like that, so we can do like if you had this right here, and this one can go right here, this one in the distance like that. If it's following along some sort of deep space winding type of scenario, or just any type of road that's going off into the distance like that. And that you can see it being done with most of these right here. So the pagoda right here, again, the mystic imagery I think would really go well with these kind of more Asian kind of inspired things like that, as well as the stone lanterns like that. 1, 2 different sizes of that, 2 different sizes of this one right here. 3, 2, and 3 of this one. I was able to put like 3 of these tiki torches in here. Now the tiki torch right here, ideally this one would have been more of like a flame going up like that, okay? But I needed to have something a little bit more contained, like it's glowing, so I did like an LED tiki torch like this, so we can illuminate that interior right there, okay? And so this one right here would be really good with, you can do it in any kind of setting, but if you have any of the like tropical types of imagery, palms and huts or anything like that, or if you have a beach scene with palm trees or something like that, I thought these little tiki torches would be really good for that type of scenario. But, okay, now see this one right here too, like little pathway lights, like you might have like solar lights in your yard. You know that pattern that they kind of put on the ground like this? Hello, Jeannie. I can't wait to use this one right here. You stamp it into a scene. You're going to have to do it on like probably like a semi-gloss or matte paper. But have this little glowing like this. And then see down here, I'm going to take, if this is like in yellow or something like this, like that. And then this right in here, I'm going to put that same type of color scenario down here in that patterning down there. So I thought that would look really cool if this is like here, 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 and you have the smaller ones going off in the distance, and you can put that lighting pattern on the ground. That's really pretty cool looking with that. So that was another thing. It was like, do I add that in there? And I thought, okay, I have enough of these other things in here, but none of them have that kind of reflective area down here. So I did it kind of lightly like this, in that it's not a real heavily stippled pattern like that, but I wanted to put that reflective light down in here. And that's stuff that I'm going to do with like paint pens or colored pencils or something like that. Yeah, like these lampposts like this. Okay, so let's talk about the lamppost. But can you imagine like the lamppost with stuff like this too? in the foreground, you know. I thought the lampposts, not that they're, I don't think they look haunted or anything like that, but you know, you have like a house up here, you know, you can have like the something like this going up here too, like that, right? And wouldn't these lampposts kind of be cool too? Like right around the you can do them like down here, like it's this is the road or you know the sidewalk or something like that down there. You can have it going up to it or something. But just kind of like extra options, you know, in terms of you know, like interesting types of lighting like that. I thought it'd be pretty cool. Um, so these can be like really whimsical, and you can have them like little fairies or something like that walking around in there, or you put them in a Halloween scene like that, and you get these like other like full moon types of objects glowing down here with like zombies walking around them. All right, let's take a look and I'll show you what these things look like this. Okay, now I had to reduce this one down because I couldn't tell how much of the detail was going to be showing in this kind of lower rendered section, but that lantern kind of looks like this. So the big thing that you want is when you're doing all these different types of textures is that you want stone to look like stone. It's really hard, you know, if you're talking about like you know, the difference between like marble and granite or something like that. But ideally, you can kind of differentiate kind of like different types of rock surfaces or smooth surfaces from textured surfaces or new surfaces with weathered surfaces. So things like this would be kind of like a weathered surface like that. So what I've done is I've gone in, you can't really tell like this on this video, but I put like a lot of negative space in here so that it's not just black in there. And that can make it look a little bit more aged, which gives and that gives things a different kind of emotional tone and feel to the impressions. Oh, by the way, so on something like this, I'm going to do this like glowing light right in here like that. And I think that would be really fun. You can put that glowing light around it down here. Oh, and here's this one right here. I had it in a couple different sizes. Like, let's X this one out. So I had to change this one. This one was going to be a little bit larger. So I changed it. I think it was 2.75 or something like that high. And again, it's a pretty big stamp if you're talking about 2.7 inches high. But again, I thought the only part that's illuminated is this part right here. So that's going to be like a small fraction of that image. So I thought I might have to go with it a little bit larger, but I put it up against the size of like some of these different paths. And this is like the path right here is like, it's right similar to some of the other roads that I've had. So so anyways, it got reduced down. And plus it also had this other area out here like that. So if I went too large and if I went with three sizes, I wouldn't have had room for these other images on here. And I wanted to have at least two sizes of most of these, you know, just so we can get that perspective into our scenes. Here's the Tiki torch right here. The Tiki torch was rendered really large because I had to get all that kind of negative space in here where that light is kind of glowing through like that. It's like, I don't know, what would it be? Like a bamboo. What do I call it? Thatching? Or I don't know. Is that the word for it? You know? So we have to have that kind of thing. Otherwise, this is just like all black. You know what I mean? And that's not like a really fun design. So I had to kind of open up these areas down here where it's like, you know, the wood is kind of opening up like that. So in here, I kind of tweaked this a lot, you know, so that we can still be able to see it when it's been reduced down like so small. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it in this one right here, but that one's going to be like so far in the distance usually. You know, you won't have to do it. You can do these things like this. You can put them like at different angles and, you know, have it a little tippy. The thing about stamping these ones right here is you're going to want to stamp it kind of like vertical. Unless you're doing a Halloween scene, then it can be a little bit on its side, aged and worn. That's the hardest thing about the, you know, Stampscapes, if there's like an image that's like really vertical, it's just stamping it real vertical, unless you have a positioner. But I don't use positioners, so. Anyway, there's the tiki torch like that. You had the Halloween scenes in mind, Tracy. You and I are thinking alike. Yeah. Can you imagine like this, like this thing like this and like like a silhouetted figure or something like this. I think that would be, and you can put like a full moon over here. I mean, depending on what the figure is, it can be something like, it's like romantic kind of evening stroll, and, you know, reflective streets or something like that, like right after a rain or something like that. But if you put like something, the right figure in here, like it can be like really creepy, with this glowing, barely glowing light or something like that. If this was stamped into, okay, now say if you do something like this too, you can stamp this whole thing out on scene here, and you can just stamp this portion right here out on glow in the dark paper, and you just cut out like this. It's almost like cutting out little, it's not quite rectangles, but you can just put the glow in the dark part right here, right over the top of it, and it'll match up just fine. But you can have like these lights, with a glow in the dark property like that. That's what's really fun about the printable vinyl glow in the dark papers like that. So that should be really fun. All right, so here's the other one right here. When I thought about it, I thought, that might be a little bit overkill. We already got the one straight line, but it looks so different. I fell in love with both of them. I couldn't do without. But so the sacrifice I made is that there's only two different sizes of this one right here, and this one right here. I thought this one would be a little bit more versatile than this one. This one's a little bit more ornate and decorative or something like that. So I went with the 3 of this one. This one's more of a silhouette, so we can use it just in, basically anywhere. Unless there's something really dark behind it, and then you're stamping that light on it. Unless you're doing like a different thing, where you're stamping out these bulbs on a different piece of paper. But again, it doesn't have to be on glow-in-the-dark paper. If you want those, if you're stamping this over like a dark paper or something like that, or one of Deanna's papers or something like that, where it's got this darker thing in the background, it's going to darken it out. What you can take and you can add in white over the top of it to lighten it out again. But again, you can just stamp out this small portion. That's a real easy cutout, and just put them right over the top of it where it's a real nice and illuminated type of color there, if you know what I mean. So more lighting. Here's the road like this. So I wanted to, I didn't want to do some kind of like paved road, which I could, but I don't have like cityscapes or something like that. So a little bit more of like a brick pathway road like that. This one right here, it's a lot more defined right in the foreground. You can see where it gets lighter like this up here, which is done for a reason, so that if you stamp figures in here, you won't have this strong kind of darkness showing right through the figures, okay? So it's a little bit lighter up there, depending on what figure you're using too. If you're using a silhouette, then you can stamp them anywhere you want. But if there's a little bit of texture or something in them, you should be able to stamp them on here. But one of the things that I'll be doing with this one right here is when you ink it up, a lot of times what I do on the back of the area that I want a little bit lighter, I'll just dab some of that ink off of that top portion. And again, if I'm stamping some kind of figure up there, and I'll just lighten this up a little bit. So that's why this gets lighter up here. So it's dark to light and close near to far. But it's also for imagery to stamp in there. So hopefully, we've done a lot of the kind of those little fussy kind of design considerations and kind of removed as many as possible without getting rid of the form up here in the design. So I try to remove a lot of that information up there, that heavy information, with the idea of how we're going to be using these. So it could just be a road, to nowhere too, and there's enough information on here, but it's not so defined again. that's going to interfere with things that we might want to be stamping in there. You don't want to, you don't want those people to be like see-through, you know. Unless it's like Tracy and I who are going to be stamping ghosts up there for Halloween. All right, so here's the stone lantern right here. I could have just done this in 3 different sizes, okay, but I thought, I'm going to do it 3 different times and I'm going to have like a little bit less information on this one right here, so that it's just more silhouette. They don't have this little lighter types of things right up here. So it just gets, it's a more simplified form because it is so small like this at 0.4 by 1 inch like that. And yeah, okay, here it is right here. Large, medium, and small, okay? Because again, when you reduce things so far, it's going to be losing a lot of information. So I put like a lot of the dots up here a little bit, that little stippled area a lot closer, which just won't be able to hold up with a 75% reduction or something like that, or whatever it would be off the 2-inch right here. So this isn't 2 inches right here, but this is like taller. So this one was reduced down to 2 inches, okay? So again, these are the original pieces like this, so. Anyway, sets 47, 46 for 748. Sometimes I can't believe how many nature sets there are at this point in time, or just sets in general. But yeah, can't wait to use these. They represent, like in the last release, a lot of the designs kind of represent something a little bit different, a different aspect to the scenes. Be it stronger kind of visual landing points, larger kind of figures, we have those horses and stuff like that. So a lot more drama and I guess majesty or something like that. We want to up the we're trying to up the kind of the emotional tones of scenes. That's what I try to do, because I'm always trying to kind of add kind of a stronger emotional quality into my scenes. That's always been kind of hunting for, and it was kind of trying to increase a certain kind of avenue within that emotional structure, and trying to heighten it, through contrast and things like that. But I'm trying to do that more through the actual imagery now too. And I hadn't thought about things like different types of lighting, like lanterns, before. I was thinking more of the natural environment, but I thought, well, what would I rather go do during some sort of holiday kind of experience? Do I want to go out and kind of walk in the forest at midnight, which would be cool too, which I've done before a lot in deserts and things like that, or do you want to go like I was mentioning to the the botanical gardens? They got us decked out with they got it decked out with holiday lighting out there, which is really cool too. So that's what these types of things are kind of entering into it. Not like a string of lights, but decorative floral landscaped lighting. No, Sheila, they'll all be in set form. So if these were like available individually, they would cost like 3 times as much or 4 times as much as they do as a set layer. So something like this right here, I was kind of estimating what these would cost here if those stamps were sold individually instead of, well, they're on the pre-sale special right now. So what is that, 15 something or something like that, or $18.50 full price for something like that. This set right here, I estimated, I think it was more like $40 individually. It's because you have to make up plates for, I wouldn't put like one stamp 20 times per plate or something like that, but this would take up a huge amount more plates. It would be like 5 plates out of that. 5 plates are $500 to produce, so that's why individual stamps are so expensive, especially in rubber form, because the magnesiums are so expensive. And then you have to have molds made from that too, and shipping. So by the time you get like a design into production individually, I mean, people still do it, but it is really I don't know, it's like $150 or something like that. It used to be even more when we were doing wood mounted stamps because we're talking about labels too, so it was kind of crazy. So you save about 75% for the individual. If not, I don't know, 50 to 70% or something like that in sheet form. Now, it's not good if you like want one stamp out of there or something like that. But even if you wanted like a third of it, that would be as much for those three stamps as it is for the whole sheet. Now, the way that I have these things crammed in here. Anyway, uh, Brick Road. Yeah. Oh, that's cool, Candy. Yeah. They add so much character to a town when they have that. Or like brick sidewalks. I love it. Yeah, a lot of Halloween designs, so I can't wait to use some of these things like this. So we could have a lot of creepy lighting in there. So it's like nice and romantic lighting in certain settings, and a lot of my favorite, which is the real kind of chilling and, like I said, creepy lighting. Yeah. So Linda, so we talked about, when we've been doing like Halloween scenes before, we call these things the monster maps. Kind of like, you'd have like a big scene or something like that with a lot of the little different things stamped out there, with like a Halloween type of setting. So now we can have like we can set like little lamps or something like that with like lighting through our little monster maps. Monster maps, if you don't know what I'm talking about. So like when you go to like an amusement park or something like that, there's like a map of the place, or there's "you are here" type of thing on like a big board type of map. So that's what we started doing. I think it was 2 years ago in the Stampscapes Facebook group. But now I see these lighting types of things too. I mean, it doesn't have to be monsters in Halloween, but these little lamps or something like that are this visual kind of image that can go throughout a piece, so it really kind of pulls the viewer from one spot to the next. It gives it it was visual continuity. That's the term I'm looking for. So if you have like things like this going through something, or these little kind of things like that, it really kind of adds in an extra little element. And being that I usually do that with other forms, like a branch or a twig or pebbles or something like that. But this is like much more kind of attention getting at the same time. But if you have enough of them, it just kind of becomes pattern too. But again, it's that visual continuity going through there. But it's a much more interesting, potentially interesting version of it if it's an actual kind of a source of illumination. So, and you get, like I said, you can do them in all kinds of different colors too. So, yeah, uh, water types of things, or forest floor types of things too. So I don't know, or Halloween. You can do them in like a nice, startling, like warm white light or something like that, or you can do them in. Tracy's going to do them in like a blood red. With like a blood red moon kind of coming over the horizon. Could the individual stamps not be cut from the sets? Individual stamps not be cut from. You can cut them from the stamps, but like, you mean if someone wanted to order like one stamp from the sets, Linda? They could, but I would be buying like the whole set, at whatever my price is from my rubber guy, and I'd be like cutting out one stamp of it, and then you can't sell the rest of them, potentially. Or inevitably, what happens is, in a scene like this, if you don't have um, uh, other plates or something like that, let's say you have all these individually for sale, right? but they're not going to sell at the same rate. Okay, some stamps are going to sell twice as much as the other ones might be the most popular out of there. So what you have is all these stacks of rubber with like a bunch of images cut out of them, but you're paying for the whole thing and you don't know how much of the set's going to sell. So, yeah. But again, it's like $1 a stamp, so, or it's something like that for what would be like twice as much. So, like I said, even if you wanted to buy like, I don't know, it was something like it was either a third. I don't know. I didn't write all this down, but I was kind of just estimating it. But yeah, it's these days if even people want like 1/3 of it, it's like you just get all the rest of them for free than what you would be paying for it individually. Yeah, that's what happens, Linda. So even if you have like two stamps on one plate or three stamps and you have like 20 of each of them, inevitably they don't sell at the same rate or what you think. Even if you have like two identical stamps, one's facing right and one's facing left, right? And they're the same size, they're the same stamp. They don't sell at the same rate. So I might be sitting with, instead of doing a separate plate for the left side and the right side, which might save you money in the long run or something like that over years. Initially, that plate costs like so much. So I might have like three of each of a certain design on a plate. But what if then you might get a wholesale order. I want 20 of the left side, but you paid for that whole plate. So it just negates any kind of profit margin out of it. And you're actually losing money from doing that. So anyway. All right, folks. So anyway, that's the sneak preview there. That's what the live stream is about tonight. Well, I've been working on this. I haven't been doing as many videos over the past few weeks here, and this is what I've been working on. I don't know which plate took me the longest, but I don't know, maybe the first one, just because I was getting kind of into the design mode again. But I really had fun working on these ones, and then it got rolling. I thought I was going to come out with two sets, and was like, oh, but the lighting types of things, it's like, okay, I need this, this, and this, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do those two lanterns, but I couldn't decide between the two of them because I liked them so much. So it's like, okay, let's just add in another set. And that's when the lamp post things like that came into play too. And then I had these other pathway things like that, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to add that in there into both of these ones like that, because I didn't want to have another like full size set that just went into paths or something like that, So a little bit more of those, like I said, like a manufactured path rather than like dirt road or something like that, which I think will really go well with these pieces, and a little bit more of a whatever in context. So, hope you guys like the designs and the concepts of them. We'll have to put them into application and see how they work out, of course. But I don't know. Anytime I'm doing these things these days, unless it's something like a completely new thing, I think I have a pretty decent idea of how I can be using it. Let me see. What did Candy say here? Say right here. Candy's 17-inch trilogy of my monster maps every year. I had hinges. Aren't those fun though? Those monster maps, Candy? I think we all enjoyed doing those too. What I really enjoyed about the monster maps and doing those big pieces like that, I just totally throw out perspective out the window. You know what I mean? So I have like larger things, closer things that are in the distance or higher up. I can just forget about all of that type of thing, because that's the way those amusement park maps work. That was one of my assignments in one of my illustration classes, and he brought that up. How those maps, they're like this above view, and they have to have all this types of information in it. But there used to be these maps, these physical maps too. I forgot of like urban areas, and I used to have one. I forgot what kind of map that was called, but it was really easy to read too. But I used to have one of those that I carried around in my car with me all the time. It wasn't the it wasn't the that multi page. I forgot even the name of that book that went into all the different streets, but it was this one kind of like cartoony looking one, like I said, from like a amusement park. But anyways, I love working on those types of scenes like that. We should do that for just non Halloween things, sometime too. Look at this. We can do like SeaWorld with this one right here. Thanks, Tracy. Hello, Horsey Girl. If people don't want the whole plate, they can buy the set, then keep the ones. You can sell them. Or if, someone, there's the Facebook group and says, hey, so, you can put it there and say, hey, does anyone want to, I want this off this plate right here. Does anyone want the rest of them or something like that, And you can do that. No rules monster maps, and that's the way it should be. Are you going to make more ocean life stamps to go with the Orcas? Maybe, yeah, Horsey Girl. That would be like one of the next things, I think. One of the things that I was working on. Oh, okay. So I completely forgot about this, but I was doing one of the original concepts of a set was going to be. It wasn't going to be so much necessarily underwater, but it was going to be shoreline. I wanted more tide pooly types of things. But then I thought, okay, that gets into this whole other big bag of worms. But if you did like underwater stuff, you can have like something on the edge, and you can have like another, or you can do like tide pooly things up top, and then you would go underwater like that. A lot of people have asked me about underwater scenes in the past, but I wanted to do kind of more of the rock structuring. It wouldn't be like so much like super deep sea types of things. But I wanted more of the, like the tide pools, maybe like 30 feet types of things, where there's a lot more sea life on those structures like that. So I ran into a kind of a design issue with that, though, because it was like I was thinking, okay, do we just do it inherently, sea fans and anemones and starfish and stuff like that? Do we do that just inherently on the imagery, or do you do those types of things separately and they can just stamp it on any type of rock things that people already have? And that was the thing that I was kind of, I don't know, I ran into that one. It was like, I'm not quite sure. I guess you can do both too, where you have stuff just inherently on some kind of like rock structure. And you would have to build out from it too. And sometimes if you're doing stuff like underwater like that too, in theory, because it's kind of a darker, potentially environment, do you do it kind of like a heavier, darker kind of, rock surface or coral surface or something like that? Yeah, or do you do it lighter, like where like a starfish is showing like it's a lighter kind of form against a darker background? But then if you're doing it separately, you can't really do that. It has to be drawn in the design itself, unless you're stamping like starfish in like white pigment ink over a dark, rock or something like that. But that wouldn't look good either. So yeah, that was a little issue I had with that from a design perspective. So I just did the above surface stuff, Yeah. Anyway, I'll do some. I'll do some. There's a few kind of underwater scenes that I've done before though, and again, I just use my twisting leaves is the name of the stamp. I've done those the twisting leaves in two different sizes, and it really looks like a kelp forest type of formation when you use it like that. And I've had, when I've done those underwater things, it's always just to kind of give myself an excuse to do those light beams in there. One of them too specifically is that underwater scene. It was on gold paper, with those beams coming through there. So it was gold, foil environment, and it was largely done in white pigment ink. I only kind of remember this because someone made a comment on it the other day on that video. But I think I have a few of those. I think it was when I was started playing around with gold or metallic cardstocks in general. But those ones are really fun to do. That's a really fun surface to use for underwater scenes like that because it adds that shimmer just inherently into the scenario, and that's what you kind of want from kind of an underwater type of thing. So, anyone do any diving or skin diving or anything like that in here? It's like that little magical kind of light that you see in a underwater, not the deep sea or something like that, but like I said, that first whatever 20, 30 feet or something like that, that the visibility is really good. Oh, little hummingbirds, yeah. I thought about that in the past too. I think it was I mean, people have them, but the one thing about the hummingbirds is you have to really do that still form in stamping form of their wings. You know what I mean? So it's like this whatever, 1/1,000,000th of a second kind of exposure with those hummingbirds like that. But I think I've thought about that in the past too. Yeah, they're really whimsical. One of the things that years ago when I moved into this house up in Los Angeles, the next door neighbor over there for a little housewarming present, he's like a bird watcher, and he brought me over this hummingbird feeder. And he was saying that he, no matter where he goes, like even if it's on vacation for a few days, like out in the desert or anything, he'll take a hummingbird feeder and put it out. And there's hummingbirds that'll come around and discover it. So whenever I think of hummingbirds, I think of that dude. Some really cool hummingbird videos on here on YouTube too. Have a great rest of evening and weekend. I want to get down to some stamping now too. I have all kinds of other ideas. I've been playing around with the vellum, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do some environments with these new images in mind. I'll do like a setting. The thing about these settings too. Not to ramble on forever here, but I can make my forest floors darker, than I used to, or any kind of thing like that, because I can illuminate these areas now that would normally be kind of like just dead areas within a scene. And I can bring, some kind of visual interest into those areas other than, like fireflies. I love that look too, but I've been doing those little firefly things for probably like, I don't know, 10, 15 years or something like that, just to kind of liven up those dead spots in a scene. They're mostly brightly clear. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If people want them darker, they can just use darker colors. Yeah. Uh, I haven't been diving in a gazillion years, but yeah. But I want that shimmery kind of thing going on like that. And yeah, like the real crazy, 100% saturated colors, because that's what people like too. But I want to, hopefully, if when you do these, when I do those underwater scenes, I want to capture a little bit of the essence, you know what I mean? Of like, being in there, with the visibility a little bit, not like at 100% or something like that, like a gazillion percent, like we're, diving in, um, like distilled water or something. Some of them are really, super clear. What are those cenotes or something like that? Aren't those things like super clear? Those blue, what do they call them? Blue holes or something like that, right? Hello, Allie's Crafts. Good to see you. Yeah, hope all's going well in your part of the world. Go check out Allie's Crafts on Facebook, and if you're in the Australia, Tasmania area, check out Allie's Crafts at the website. Yeah, so coming out pretty soon, Allie. All right, folks. Have a great rest of evening, and hope to see you in the next live.